I was born in the Philippines to Filipino parents, but I don't speak Tagalog, and I was only living there for a year. I was raised, however, in Hong Kong, where I went to an international school. My best friend is half Swiss, half Malay. And the reason I was in Hong Kong was because of my parents' job. Now, I'm in the United States, again, mostly because of my parents' job, but also I'm going to go to college here. But taking all of this into consideration about my background, I like to consider myself now, I am a product of globalization. But what do I mean by this? So traditionally, globalization refers to worldwide integration and development. So basically, countries setting up trade agreements and investing in each other's economies. In economic terms, it refers to the worldwide exchange of goods and services. We've all been taught about the Silk Road, right? It's an example of globalization, albeit pretty archaic. So there was a trade route between African, Asian, and European countries where people would not only trade silk, but also technology, religion, and culture. So inventions like paper making and gunpowder, and even religions like Buddhism spread because of the Silk Road, because of this archaic form of globalization. So globalization is nothing new. To me personally, the textbook definition and the historical examples aren't really enough. You know, globalization, as evidenced by my existence, my parents' existence, is the exchange and collaboration of people and ideas. Now, and on this, the main reason I'm physically here speaking to you today is because my parents work for a company with a presence all around the world. So that's the definition of globalization and what it means to me. But in different national levels, there are different perceptions of globalization. In the United States, we've been hearing a lot of, you know, it's the cause of the bad economy, they're taking our jobs away. But there isn't enough nuance in this perception. And for a topic as pervasive and broad as globalization, we're going to need some nuance. So this is what I propose to you today. We need to start teaching the fundamentals of globalization in schools all around the world. And you're probably wondering why. So I believe that there are three main reasons why. First, it's in our human nature to shut out what we don't understand. Second, globalization is inevitable, whether we like it or not. And third, understanding globalization is the only way we can make it work for everyone. And how can we, the future generation, how are we supposed to shape the world if we can barely comprehend it? Now, as I said before, Americans have been hearing a lot of this lately.
We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries stealing our companies and destroying our jobs.
Corporate America continues to shut down plants in this country, throw American workers out on the street, and then move to countries like China, Mexico, Vietnam, and other low-wage countries.
They took my job!
They took your job!
Now, globalization is more than this. It's all of the good that could have come out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, such as, boosting economic growth around the world or protecting human and environmental rights around the world. It's participation in NATO that maintains world security, and I wish I could go into all of these, but they deserve their own TED Talk and it would take too much time. And if you were to learn about such elements in our schools, we would have a more informed public. We could make our own decisions about this and have an articulate discussion that can eventually shape policy. Now, moving on to the inevitability of globalization, we have to acknowledge that it's been a part of human history for centuries. Now, it just stands out to us today because it's escalated so quickly. Now, let's take a look at a mantra economists like to repeat over and over again.
Adam Smith was onto something. Self-sufficiency is inefficiency, and inefficiency can lead to poverty.
In case you didn't get that, self-sufficiency is insufficiency. Now, we live in a world where we want everything in our fingertips. We want to see everything, experience everything, own everything. And without globalization, we wouldn't have the phones in our pockets, we wouldn't have the skyscrapers on our skyline or the tracks on our subway. And yes, we could use American oil to fuel our cars or American steel to repair our infrastructure, but we simply don't have enough. if countries were to adopt isolationist policies, so no interaction with the rest of the world, we wouldn't be able to live the lifestyles we have now. And it's simply unreasonable to assume that humans can change our consumption patterns and lifestyles fast enough for governments to be able to rely only on one country's resources. And we wouldn't have the knowledge from scientists or the guy who made Tetris. We wouldn't have the investments from foreign governments to help properly sustain and innovate. And this applies not just to America, but around the world. So globalization, it's not only the system we have, but it's the best way to sustain and amend our way of life. Now, I admit it's definitely not perfect. I don't mean to overlook how the International Monetary Fund has royally screwed over some developing countries, or how the European Union was so aggravating the British decided to leave it. These are all very legitimate concerns that deserve TED Talks all of their own. But the problem isn't going to be solved by abandoning all hope. Just because a good thing isn't perfect doesn't mean it must be taken away. And if we, the future generation, are to truly make it work for everyone, we have to understand it. US history classes shouldn't just stop at the Iraq War because China just joined the World Trade Organization and changed the landscape of trade. World history shouldn't just be about certain eras or regimes, but about recent history as well, such as the Sudanese genocide or how the tensions between Russia, China, and North Korea fostered and how that shapes us today. Since my existence is a product of globalization, I don't fear it. But we need the global community to have an articulate enough discussion. And in order for them to do that, in order for them to have, to share common goals and to unite for the good of humanity, to promote prosperity, to safeguard our planet, globalization must be taught.